Hi, this is Attila 16 and this is a video of Wargame Airland battle, and this is actually a 10 against 1 round that I did, and I'm the one guy. So essentially what happened is that the timer started, there was at least 11 players in, and I was the only one willing to be in the Pact faction. So I ended up being alone against 10 people originally, but a few of them actually left, so there was only 6 of them remaining. Now what's interesting about this is that originally I did not want to record it, but before the match even started, a guy decided to ask me, I hope you will record your destruction there. So I decided to follow his advice, since you don't play a 10 versus 1 every day. So I started to record. Now, since I was alone, there was no communication, and since I was against 6 players, I had to compensate my lack of attention all over the battlefield by number of troops and spread them around. Now I decided not to attack anywhere at the beginning, which was actually a pretty good idea, because I just captured the position which I needed to capture, and since this is a game of destruction, the goal of destruction is to kill more in terms of points of the enemy stuff than what you lose. And the thing is that since I was alone and there were 6, if I was to attack a position, they will all focus their attention on that position. And at the same time, I probably will not be able to attack on multiple positions at once, especially since I had no idea where was their main force. And they could have simply focused all their attention on one side and totally beat me there. So at the beginning, I decided to play it safe. And on their part, they decided to bombard a little the central position, which was really smart of them. But at the same time, my approach was to actually spawn a lot of very inexpensive units and have them in great number and spread them around. And the objective I had with that wasn't to be so much an effective fighting force, but at least that in the context where they would start a battle somewhere, I would have a few force to resist for a while, and above all a few force to spot the enemy, which is really important. And at the same time, since they were cheap in terms of pricing, and losing them wasn't particularly giving much point to the enemy, it allowed me to be able to accept the fact that I will lose some by lack of attention. So essentially what I'm expecting there is that if the enemy attacks somewhere, I might not have even the time to notice that, oh look, there's a fight over there, so my troops might die from my lack of attention. But compensating that lack of attention with number appeared to be the most effective way to do it, to compensate that. Now the thing is that at the beginning, the enemy did a kind of a mistake. I think they were not aggressive enough, so they were unable to take advantage of my lack of attention on the battle, and they also did allow me to take different position or entrench myself. And at the same time, they started to bombard me with artillery, which I spotted quickly with the smoke, and I decided to send a few fighters. Now, one thing which is important also to consider when you're alone against 6 in this case is that the game actually increased the amount of units you have, and it also increased the points you have. And as you can see on top left, I now have 11,000 points. And I'm alone, so I have so much points that I'm unable to spend them all, and that's why I think it will have been important for the adversary to really attack me early on, because I'm just unable to spend all my points, which means that they have a bigger force than I do. Because normally if it was divided between 10 player, all those 10,000 points which I have will have been spent and you will have a much bigger army. But in this case, I'm only spending on small units, very inexpensive. And the result is that even though I don't have all the zones, I'm pretty well entrenched now, without having much of a, let's say, a big expense. So at the beginning, what's a little disappointing is they did not attack, and they should have, because my troops were not all deployed. I was probably unable to deploy them all anyway. Just having the space to deploy them was too much. And yeah, as a result, they did not take advantage of that. Now, also, you can see now that I'm actually planning to spawn a large amount of T-34, which costs 10. And actually, I had so many of them to spawn that there was no space for them to spawn on. And here was, I think, what was a little annoying is that the enemy was just bombarding trucks which are worth 15 points. And to be honest, I think the cost of their artillery resupply will cost more than what they are destroying, actually. They were really timid at the beginning, and I think that's really why they ended up losing, because there's no way I could have defended the whole front if they were actually actively attacking. So I did send a few fighters there, and I lost a few, but it wasn't decisive. So at the beginning, I think it's largely a kind of situation where nobody wants to advance, because first of all, I don't know where they are, and they don't really know what to expect if they attack me. And actually, they are probably right to hold it like that, because as you can see here, I can spawn a very large amount of tank out of nowhere. But the problem I have is that even though I have that capacity to spawn a large amount of force like that, they will all spawn one after the other, and that's a big issue for me, because even though I have large mobilization capacity, they can only spawn one group at a time at the entry point. And this is very bad for me, and I think that's another aspect which they fortunately for me, did not exploit, because if they start to attack a position like on the side, they could have simply ended up attacking me more than I was able to spawn. Now you can see here that they decided to start attacking in the center, which is a pretty smart move, and it was also probably the most interesting part. While the guy on the right side, I think he probably wasn't particularly experimented, because he ended up sending supply trucks ahead of his army. And my guess is that the recon, they probably had a recon somewhere, and the recon did not see anything, so he decided to rush it. But he probably got his information before I started calling on my tank. While there you have a lot of support vehicles, which are pretty good against other vehicles. And now you can see probably one of my main advantage. It's my MiG-21s. And by spreading troops around like I did, I can now see the different targets. And my MiG-21s, even though they're not good fighters, since they don't even have a gun in this case, I can call a large quantity of them, and I can bombard a lot of vehicle down there, as you can see. While here they decided to throw some napalm, which is okay. Here I actually sent a few Mi-4 choppers, which are attack chopper, pretty low tech, mostly made of, well, mostly using rockets and a few missiles, which are not super good, but it does the job. Then on the right side, where they actually sent napalm, you end up with the enemy having tank going through their own napalm, which is a bit of an issue for them. I guess you can see that, of course, my adversary were not all super experimented. So that might explain up to a certain point the end result of this fight. But also the fact that I had a large amount of T-55 was likely a surprise for them. And now I even decided to counterattack, while the fight for that zone over there continues on. And what's interesting there is that actually called as reinforcement a lot of T-55 for center part, but they did not come quickly, and it really took their time there. And now seeing that I had defeated the original attack, I decided to counterattack. And since I had number, it probably went well. I did manage to destroy quite a few good enemy tank, just by the number of tank I had. At the same time, the enemy did send quite a few planes, and this is actually what was really dangerous for me, is that by focusing an attack on one side, you end up with all those enemy planes flying around, and these planes can be very dangerous because I did not have any good anti-air at that time, and they can really hurt my tank quite a bit. But the thing is that I had a lot of light anti-air, as you can see or hear, and they were firing on pretty much everything which was moving, including vehicle. While in the center here, which is not exactly the center, but you know, you catch my drift there. I have my T-55, which are finally coming, and I will counterattack to retake the position. They did manage to destroy my command vehicle, but overall I'm still in good shape. And also I have 15,000 points which are not even spent. That's also something which is interesting about this battle, is that since I was only one, I barely had I was nearly unable to spend all my points, and I think I will finish this battle with over 35,000 points which were not spent. And here's the thing, if you look at this battle right here on the right side, just look at the amount of planes flying around, and I think if they had attack on all the front like they did there, they probably would have defeated me much faster, or at all. Okay, they would have defeated me, because there's just no way I had the means to resist that amount of airplanes. At the same time, this amount of airplanes is why I did not attack in the first place. So I guess I proved the point there that by not attacking any position at the beginning, I took the right choice, because I would have been defeated. If I had focused all my attention on one side, I would have had all those planes coming for me. So now I'm sending my troops or tank into that zone. While here I keep pushing, and the reason why I keep pushing is that being at the bottom of the hill can be a good thing, because force the enemy to advance and expose itself to actually manage fire at you. At the same time, I'm losing quite a bit of troops there, but the the thing is that it wasn't really important to me, but because as a result of my attack, the enemy brought quite a bit of planes, and these planes were largely shut down. And unlike NATO, my planes were quite numerous in reserve because I was alone, so I had a large amount of planes which I could call later on. While in their case, since it was divided between 6 players, each plane they will lose was a bigger loss than mine. So I'm essentially using my tank as a bait for their planes. Also, another aspect that I had an issue with is that since I had so many troops around, it was very laggy. So sometimes I ended up double-clicking on units to choose all the units which were on my screen, and it did not necessarily select only them. It did select troops which were not even on the screen, and that led to sometimes weird strategy. I'm sure it did confuse the adversaries, but the thing is that when you call, well, when you order a move and it brings troops from elsewhere, that was a bit of an issue, and that was probably confusing both for my troops and the enemy. And actually, here you can see on the right side I have a few T-34 or perhaps T-55 which were coming from the side. That was unexpected, but in the end it did prove to be a good move, because it did manage to clear out a few scouts. Now you can see that briefly there, you could see that the enemy actually is defeating my T-55, and that's probably because they had better tank. But here's the thing which is important, is that I had a lot of planes that I could call, as you can see right there. And the thing is that by having a lot of cheap tank like that, it essentially means that you rely on air power. And you can see there that I simply wiped out quite a few tank. So I'm calling airstrike on all the enemy tank around, and I think this is where the advantage of that fight, that zone, turns. It's because of my plane. And the thing is that the enemy calls in a lot of Tomcat and fighters, all that kind of stuff, which is very good against my planes. But the thing is that usually the enemy always end up calling planes too late, and at the same time, each time I lost a plane, it could be quickly replaced, because unlike them, I had a much larger quantity of them, because first of all I was alone, and secondly my deck actually has plus 80% in terms of quantity because of the bonus I chose. This is actually a deck which is only units prior to 1970 or 72, I'm not sure. But as a result of this, I have way more troops, and on top of that, just the fact that I'm the only player in my team provide me even more troops. So you can imagine that I had quite a few troops. I think I was supposed to have probably 24 T-34, and since I was alone, I ended up having probably 260 T-34. And now what is also interesting about the deck I used is that I decided to go with super well experienced troops. So even though my troops are pretty cheap, they are super experienced, and that probably comes to play into this fight, because even though the stats of my units are pretty bad and low, having a good crew reduces their number, but here it's the number of troops that I have is totally compensated by the fact that I'm the only player and I have a plus 80% in terms of troops. So having experienced troops doesn't reduce uh, anything in terms of number. So my troops are actually very experienced, and that probably explain also the success I had defeating the enemy. Because I suppose that even though my tank are bad, the experienced crew make them much better than what you pay for them. And normally when you buy experienced troops, it reduces the amount that you can call, but in this case I just had insane number, so the result is there. And also the thing is that each time they destroy one of my T-34, that's 10 points that they gain, while when I do an airstrike using my T-34 as recon, it usually gives me 25 points. So the gain for me at doing specific airstrike and losing my tank as recon is greater than what they gain from killing nearly all my tank. On the right side, one guy decided to make a rush, which was a pretty bad idea. There's no question about it, and that proved probably important as a result for the battle. This is probably one of the reasons why I ended up winning. Because this guy decided to waste all this stuff. But at the same time, I will say that even though he did waste quite a few troops there, I think, well, right now I was leading. I had 6,000 points and the enemy had 4,500. But even with all the stuff he wastes there, I think even before it started, if I just decided to camp, I probably would have won, because the fight that I did on the just left side of this position was a winning fight, and just by holding my ground, I probably would have win this in those conditions. It's just that it would have been kind of boring for me, because the adversary were not particularly aggressive. And this is symptomatic of destruction game mode, where in destruction what you need to do is you need to kill, well, each time you kill an enemy it gives you the amount of points that the enemy paid on that unit, which is I guess kind of interesting, but at the same time it leads the game to be very much about camping. Of course that doesn't mean that you won't win if you attack, but it certainly encourages you not to attack, and that leads the game to be potentially much more about making your small recon scout ahead and then bombard the enemy with artillery or airstrike and that kind of stuff. So it leads the game to be much more static. And since I was alone against 6, attacking probably would have been a bad idea in my case, but I decided to do it anyway, because otherwise I would have had to endure artillery bombardment, and that's kind of boring. At least I don't like it. Now of course I could have called my own artillery, because I did have Pact I artillery, which is super heavy artillery, and it's pretty good at destroying stuff, but just the thought of having to scout everything, it would have been very boring, especially when you have 6 people against you and you end up having to scout ahead all the time. Okay, now you see that the enemy is actually using MNRS on me, but I saw where that came from. And since I'm not sure what kind of defense there is in there, I decided to call 3 planes. So the first plane received the punishment, so it will either get stunned or get destroyed, and if it's very heavily defended, the second plane will receive some punishment as well, and the third plane will drop the bombs and survive. Actually called 4 planes there. Now actually what is also interesting to see there is the different position. It's important when you call a plane to see what anti-air are position, where they are, and that's important. At the same time, the enemy decided to call quite a few Tomcat, but the Tomcat came too late to save their MLRS, so the MLRS was destroyed. Probably lost more points in terms of planes than what I gained from destroying them, but it's just that the MLRS are really annoying. They don't do much damage against tank, but it's just annoying to receive all those missiles on the head. Alright, so now I'm actually leading by 2,000 points, or let's say 1,000 depending how you want to calculate it. But at this point, if I'm just defending, I will probably win, because I'm leading. Yeah, it's 2,000 points, so I'm leading, but out of let's say willed fight, I decided to attack the enemy. And even though I knew that it was a bad idea in terms of winning the game, I decided to do it anyway. But I think just since I'm alone on this side, just camping is okay. And anyway, I had 23,000 points to spare in terms of calling units, so just defending was enough. So I decided to attack, because just defending would have been boring for me. And you can see here that the enemy had quite a few tanks moving around. And this is where my MiG-21S came into play in very dangerous mission, which were nearly suicidal, but fun nonetheless. Now you can see that my airplanes are dropping their payloads on the different tanks. Starship tank are getting destroyed, and each time I destroy them, it's 30 points each, and I just need one plane to do that. My plane actually costs 50, so even if I lose my plane, I destroy way more enemies than I lose in terms of points. As you can see, my different planes are doing the job, and in this case I'm literally using my cheap tank as recon, which probably is not a good idea in terms of winning a destruction map, but at the same time I think you know, at some point this game is about fighting, not just moving around your recon to have some fun with artillery. That's kind of boring. No, I even had I brought a few choppers, which probably was a waste, all things considered, because they did not really hurt much the enemy. They did stun them a little, but other than that, they did not seem to kill much enemies there, so it was a bit of a waste. Well, now my plane they keep going in. And actually, I think the real challenge for me in this case was truly to fight the enemy airstrike, because first of all, my deck, this specific deck, did not have any anti-air capacity in terms of air-to-air. On the other hand, I had a lot of infrared missile, but the problem with infrared missile batteries is that in the end they have a shorter range than many other, well, radar guided missile, for example. But it's just that the enemy cannot do scene mission on them. And as you can see here, even though they are infrared, they still can shoot those Tomcat down. And the difference here is really that the enemy planes, each time they died, it's worth much more for the enemy to lose them than my own planes. And you can see here that I shot down, I think it was a Tomcat, and that gave me 140 points, while each time they shoot down one of my plane, it's 50 points. And now you can see, I don't know if you read it or not, but in the chat I'm actually provoking the enemy to attack me some more. I guess in some condition it could be considered a little arrogant, and I will agree with that. But my goal there was really to encourage them to attack me some more, because to be honest, I had very little hope to actually capture Paul, because my troops were too weak, and Paul was quite well defended. So that's why I started to look at the left side, where the enemy actually did not even capture the zone, and I'm not sure why. It's probable that one of their unit was stuck or something. But I started to call some tank over there in order to make an attack there, because I was pretty sure that since all the attention so far has been on one side of the battlefield, I will not meet much resistance there. I actually sent a recon vehicle there, which probably will have given them a clue that I was getting ready to do something there. Well, here I was also increasing the number of tanks that I could use to attack an exposition. But the thing is that, as I say, attacking in this game is, especially in destruction mode, is really dangerous if you want to actually win the battle. So ultimately, it's like in this case, I have 9,000 points and the enemy has, let's say, 7,000. And that means that I have a comfortable advantage on them in terms of points. So attacking them for me is a bad idea in terms of winning the battle. But I decided to continue to attack them because it was for fun. And you know, if you play a battle and you win because of the points, it's kind of boring. But if you win while fighting, that's much more fun. So that's why I decided to, even though there was no incentive for me victory-wise to attack, I decided that it would probably be more fun to attack. And I think one thing which many people forget about is that you know, a game is supposed to be fun. It's not about just bombarding stuff from afar and winning that way. The game must be fun for everybody. It's not only about beating your adversaries because of silly destruction points. Now on the right side, they are actually attacking me with choppers. And that's actually a very good idea on their part, because first of all, I don't really have anti-air which can out-fire the enemy choppers. So my the weakness of my deck in this case was truly that my anti-air were only infrared, which by the way I decided to correct following this battle, because it was really painful for me to be unable to return fire on those choppers. But the thing is that the reason why originally I only put infrared missile on this deck is that this deck was supposed to be oriented toward attacking the enemy and not necessarily holding the entire front all by myself. So it's an offensive deck, and in the context where it's an offensive deck, having infrared very mobile troops to support your troops did sound like a good idea, but I think it's clear that if you end up into a defensive situation like that, having radar guided anti-air might be a good idea, because they have a longer range, so against chopper they are probably the best weapon. What's weird in this is that radar guided missiles are good against choppers, while infrared guided missiles are good against plane. And I say that not so much because it's good, but it's because planes would see the capacity have the means to kill your radars, and that's why I say infrared are better against planes, because unlike radar, your infrared won't be killed by SEAL missions. While radar are good against chopper because they have the range to fire on the chopper from afar, which is not the case. But infrared has too short range, essentially. That's what I mean. Okay. Now you can see that the enemy actually has quite a bit of troops there. But on the other end, I have quite a bit of planes. And I'm calling many airstrike, which sadly we will miss. Or maybe not. So you can see my different plane flying and dying, of course. But the important part here is that they drop their payload, and that payload is sufficient to kill most of the enemies. And also the thing is that by attacking with land vehicle like that, which is quite a waste by the way, you should not do that. I kind of risked the victory there just by attacking like that, but the thing is that by attacking with a lot of vehicle, they end up bringing way more vehicle, and that means their anti-air was weaker. But I think ultimately my vehicle did not kill much of the enemy there. It's mostly my air force which destroyed the enemy. And just to give you an idea, here I had 48 more plane that I could call at this point in the battle to do airstrike. So that just tells you how much planes you can have when you're alone against 10 people or 6 people. Actually now they are only 2, so that means that most people actually left now at this point. They probably realize that they cannot win, or at least that they did not have the knowledge necessary to win. But the thing is that as a result of this, my adversary now have more points than they used to have before, and that means they also have more means to call troop on me. And at this point, since I just did a big attack on the right side, I decided to make an attack on the left side. And because I knew that their focus probably will be on the right side now, and all their defense will be there as well because they expect me there. So that when you see that you cannot really advance on one side, it's time to find a hole elsewhere to attack. And what I did there was simply to send all my army forward. And it's probable that I was a little clumsy about how I did it, because when I did it, actually revealed the fact that I will attack there by moving my command vehicle around. So if they actually did pay attention, they probably had a clue that something was going on there. But at the same time, they probably realized that too late. And actually what I'm doing here is move my command vehicle around the place. And it's a kind of situation where I'm like, oh, they probably didn't notice that I will do a move on the left side, so let's act like if nothing happened and it's normal. That's why I'm actually moving command vehicle elsewhere. Now here, as a result of moving my command vehicle, they probably realized that, oh, there's something going on there. So they actually did a very smart move here by moving their LAV infantry, well, marines in LAV vehicle. At the same time, the game was extremely laggy. So you can see here that I'm actually having anti-air lead the charge, and that's totally not what I wanted, but even though I tried many times to select them all to tell them, hey, don't go in front please, they did not do it. So now my tank are getting close. I'm losing quite a few anti-air sadly, but I had so many that in the end did not change much. And here I have essentially a horde of T-34 which are advancing. And I think at this point the enemy realized that, oh, there's quite an offensive there. And just by the number I'm advancing and defeating an unprepared enemy. And they probably could have pushed me back, but for some reason somebody did something wrong here and the zone wasn't captured. And they never realized it because probably their attention was elsewhere on the battlefield. So that was pretty good for me. But at some point they will capture it. Because anyway, my advance is pretty slow. And sadly I did not really zoom in, but I probably should have. It would have been probably more cinematic to do that. And now, probably seeing that I was busy elsewhere, they decided to attack me on the center, which I didn't notice. And as you can see now, that's when the fact that I had a lot of cheap troops all spread around pays off, because even though I could not really pay attention to the center, I had a few troops which could react to the attack on the center. Now actually the score is pretty even, because I did lose quite a few troops while attacking, not so much on the left side, but mostly on the right side. And that's why I'm actually moving on the left side. It's because I want some action over there where their force isn't. Now you can see that they are actually reacting to my advance with quite a few Cobra. But that's where my few anti-air which remain come into use and get rid of those choppers. The thing is that there was so many targets for those choppers that did not prioritize the anti-air, sadly for them. And actually destroying those Cobra was 65 points each. So that was a good compensation. At the same time now they actually captured the zone with a command MV which is right at the tip of the forest. But even though they would call reinforcements from that zone, I have too many troops and they just don't have the means to push me back. At the same time I decided to call a command vehicle in that zone, but they were intercepted by remaining infantry in the town, so I actually lost 2 command vehicles. You'll see that later on. But sometimes that does show how a few good troops can make a world of difference when they are well placed. Now they continue their attack in the center, and the thing is that I did not have much troop in the center, but now they are attacking me with a large force of Cobra, which I actually had spotted at the beginning of the game, but for the most part they did not do anything with those Cobras. And those Cobra decided to shoot down a few of my BMP, which are not particularly expensive, so it doesn't give them much point to destroy these. And actually that's the truth for nearly all my troops. All my troops are really inexpensive, so when you kill them it costs you a lot in ammo and it doesn't give you much in reward. And now you can see that all those Cobras are dying. And at this point I would like to point out that the score was even. But when you end up shooting so many Cobra, which cost, or at least give me 45 each, now I had an advantage of 1,000. And while the adversary can claim that the guy that wasted some troops at the beginning caused them the victory, I think this move with the Cobra is probably the one that prevented them from even having a draw, which could have been a fair deal in a way. And now they actually are attacking me in the center with much more tank. So there's a build-up of force that I did not see coming, but the fact that I have T-34 nearby does slow them down. And the thing is that what I think is important about those T-34 is that they had highest level of experience I could give them. So in static position they are really effective. And the other aspect is that since they were deployed on the edge of the plateau, you end up having a fight at very close proximity, and that means that your tank, when it's firing, actually has the maximum amount of damage it can do on the enemy at that range, and it's much less likely to miss also. So defending plateau like that with cheap units at the front, it's a very good idea to do that. And even if the enemy has good tank, it's just the amount of cannon and firepower you can give on them will give you an edge in that fight. And to be honest, I think the only weakness of my defense was enemy chopper, but as you can see, they wasted those chopper pretty badly. Alright, so now then you can see that there's more Cobra. And now I'm calling some airstrike. I think these airstrike were really what made me win this battle, and I think it's the case because I'll show you at the end of this battle that my MiG-21 actually ended up, some of them ended up killing at least 20 enemies. So the airstrike in this game really made the difference for me. And the fact that I have a lot of cheap tank allows me to have a capacity to see the enemy as well as to fight it, but in a lesser important, I will say. So it's all about you know, seeing the enemy and let the air support do it. That's how you use a cheap deck, I will say. Cheap in the sense of unfair, but I will say cheap in the sense that not expensive. Because if you misuse a not expensive deck, you might end up losing quite a bit of troops. But I think an inexpensive deck needs to be used in let's say in a combined arm fashion. So you do need to use the air support and the anti-air support in order to win, and it's your planes which will decide who wins and who loses, while your inexpensive troops are your recon essentially, and you will lose quite a bit of those. And actually you can make such a deck even with NATO if you want. It's just that in this case it did prove to be very useful for me, because I ended up winning this, but it wasn't designed for such a situation. I think if I had to do a 10 against 1 again, I might not use that deck, although this deck did prove to be rather effective at what it was. But I guess not expensive troops are useful for defensive purpose. And just think of the T-62, which I'm not using in this battle, but it has a short range in a way, and pretty good armor, not particularly good accuracy, but it's a good defensive tank. And I think at this point there's not much going on after that, because now I'm actually leading by 1000 point, which mean that I am winning, or at least I can have a draw. Having a draw in that game will have been fine by me, because normally just on the aspect of having the attention necessary to manage all the battlefield, they should have defeated me. So having a draw for me was a fine ending, and especially considering all the bad troops that I used in this. Now you can see that I'm actually sending a UAZ to Yacht to capture it, but you have a few Marine which destroyed it, and that was rather annoying for me. So I ended up calling a mega airstrike on it, and actually here I think what you'll see is how questionable is the effectiveness of airstrike on buildings. I think the buildings make infantry nearly invulnerable to everything. So you have at least that's 8 planes which are bombarding a specific area, and after that bombardment the enemy is barely scratched. So I decided to send another plane, which this time is using napalm, which is much more effective against infantry in building. So I guess what this demonstrates to you is how you need to choose the right payload for a specific purpose. But at the same time, even though I did drop some napalm on those Marines, they did manage to evade me a little. And here you can actually see that they are trying to reinforce the town. But fortunately for me, I had T-34, which, while they are not particularly good, they can at least hold their own against LAV-25 vehicle. I actually have some LAV-24 vehicle destroyed many T-72, so I think LAV vehicle, if you actually manage to send them behind an enemy tank, it can be very deadly. So here you have some Marine emerging from those destroyed vehicles, but against so many tank, and also the fact that they are stunned from the destruction of the vehicle, they did not manage to do much. But even though there's well, these enemies have been napalmed, they are still around, and they are actually the player moved them to another position. And to be honest, I think this is truly the last part of the battle. It's all about controlling that small area of land, and I guess it does demonstrate that chasing out some well-entrenched infantry is actually really difficult in this game. You need napalm and much more to actually chase them out. Here I'm even using anti-air. But the enemy Marine are actually managing to destroy a few of them. And also the enemies are also attacking the position over there with a few tanks, which are in a spread out formation. So I decided to call a few air support on them, which will allow me to destroy perhaps 1 or 2 of them. Now you can see that there's still 2 Marine fighting for the town courageously. Should salute their bravery. But the thing is that when you kill those Marine, it's 20 points each group. So even though those Marine might have killed a few of my T-34 and command vehicle, it was important for me to destroy them, because these were pretty easily accessible points to keep my advantage over the enemy, which is right now about 1,000 points more. Now I did notice shortly that there was some troops in the forest there, so I decided to call a napalm strike on that. Now you can see that my fighters are bombarding and destroying the enemy tank, which were worth 60 points each. Well, that's a pretty good deal for me. Here the enemies are also attacking me in that position with Swedish tank this time. So I'm calling more T-55 to hold the line. But I think in this case what it shows you is that my tank were really bad, because I think the enemy is actually winning this fight against my troops. Even though I probably have an advantageous position over them. And here I will actually fix the situation by calling 2 planes for each group of tank, because I think those Swedish tanks are actually really powerful in terms of armor, so 2 did seem to be reasonable. Now you can see that there's actually a few enemies which are in front, and actually I don't know at this point how much opposition I'm facing. So my planes are bombarding the enemy, and as you can see it's very effectively done. Each of those enemies which are destroyed are worth either 40 or 60 points, so that plays to my advantage, even though they killed quite a few of my tank. And you can even see the line of my tank burning there. But it's just that my airstrike largely did compensate for these very cheap tank that I lost. Now, the enemy is also calling some planes, but I do have quite a few anti-air, and the enemy planes has been destroyed as well, which give me even more points. And I think this all illustrates to you how in the mode destruction it's actually a bad idea to attack. And it's a little bit disappointing. But if you attack really well and overwhelmingly, you might actually win. So I ended up having a good victory there. It was 10 against me, or 6 against me, and then 2 against me. But that was pretty good nonetheless. It was a fun battle, but I just wish they would have been a little more aggressive. So I'll show you the post-action report, which will illustrate to you quickly that my MiG-21 did most of the job. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.